that if you don't do some work now, you'll be homeless forever. I'm sorry, what? I've come from the future to inform you that if you don't do some work now, you'll be homeless forever. And we still can't grow a beard. I've got the perfect solution to this. Hello everyone, I'm Chris Mozillo Splicerson, and today I'll be going over a game which is well beyond the point where it's okay to talk negatively about it without being lynched by an angry mob. Bioshock Infinite. A lot of people may be thinking that this video is about as topical as talking about your horse lasagna, but this was originally planned for September, when I actually played the game. But for one reason or other, it's now. Pretty much everyone has heard of Bioshock Infinite, the next installment of the Bioshock franchise that was birthed from Ken Levine's brain space right into your quivering and awaiting face. The game basically throws you into the deep end, where you really don't know anything about who or where you are, as is par for these games, and then suddenly you start talking to the fucking clangers. After a delightful rocket trip with a surprisingly precise landing, you find yourself in Colombia. No, not the town in apparently every single American state, but the other one where it's in the sky. After a small amount of ceremonial drowning, you find yourself wandering the streets of Colombia, and observe the steady increase in how twee everything is. It would appear that there's also a fair going on at the same time, and while also acting as a conveniently hidden tutorial, there's also this lady handing out a refreshing drink.
Ears.
Whoa. Whoa! Did I just make a baby? As you walk through, you stumble upon this perfectly innocent raffle, and you just so happen to win the first prize! What's the prize? Well, quite simple, it's throwing the first ball at the mixed-race couple. Oh, this is where things turn south as you... Jesus! Holy shit! Did you see that? I fucking brutally murdered everyone! I don't know about you, but when the police start questioning you, you don't instantly jump for the beheadings. The plot of Bioshock Infinite follows Booker DeWitt as he runs around murdering everyone, trying to rescue Elizabeth in order to relinquish his supposed gambling debts. This would be simpler than expected if it weren't for the fact that Elizabeth is a religious icon for brainwashed masses. You have to shoot, zap, shoot and swing your way through Colombia in order to kidnap Elizabeth from this aerial nightmare. The plot of the game is actually pretty good, with some great characters involved, although at the same time, there is a small bit of cliche when the main villain, so to speak, lives in a fucking doom fortress. This just screams evil intent, and his various speeches aren't exactly subtle in the whole racism and hellfire thing. The gameplay follows the standard Bioshock thing where you have guns, you have magical abilities, and can use both to murder some fools. But at the same time, this is where a little bit of, pardon the term, ludo-narrative dissonance comes in. Why are there vigors in this floating city? In terms of Rapture, it was a key plot point, as the plasmids are what led to the destruction of the civilization, and the actual science behind them makes logistical sense as they're from sea slugs. In Infinite, they're just there. You don't get the sense that anyone actually uses the vigors in their day-to-day lives either. As if you were to use one on a vending machine, suddenly everyone freaks out as if you just pulled a pineapple from your ass. This is the vigor that's given out for free at a freaking fair. You could potentially argue that perhaps they've not just been taken up so much, but you come across crates of the stuff. Endless crates upon crates of vigors, letting you shoot lightning from your hands or set a horde of crows upon a man. But the only times you actually see these being used is a few handfuls of them where they're used by the actual enemies. And while we're at it, the gunplay is pretty boring. You're only limited to 2 guns, in which the upgrades, which seem to stay even if you do drop the gun, cost so much you'll find yourself primarily sticking to the 2 you've upgraded. There's more guns, but there's not too much variation. You barely notice the weapon upgrades, as while it talks about increasing damage or reload speeds, the weapon itself stays the exact same. With so much of the game dedicated to having a shootout with about 20 different people all at once, you'd think they'd try and make it so the guns were more interesting than a revolver you can shoot 6 times in a row and not have your wrist shattered. You eventually come across the girl you're looking for, and immediately fall into the ocean, or onto a sky beach. Yes, a beach in the sky. I don't fully understand how all this water is being restocked, but I guess we'll just overlook it all. And it's here you begin to realise that Booker must have an iron stomach, as you down any and all food in sight without the slightest care in the world for the inevitable diabetes he'll eventually succumb to. Elizabeth comes across a fairly strong independent character to say she spent her entire life trapped in a tower with no one other than Batman to talk to, but her personality seems a little split at times. There's a segment where she sees you brutally murder a whole group of people for the first time, and is, understandably, scared. However, even though she's angry with you once you track her down, ask her to pick a lock and she'll be the chipperest little thing in the whole world, apparently having forgotten that moment where I snapped a guy's neck while she watched.
Help me out with this lock.
Let me have a look.
You'll also eventually notice that Elizabeth doesn't exactly get in the way of combat, which is actually good, but then you realise it's because she literally doesn't exist to the soldiers, running straight into a group of them for cover and they won't bat an eyelid, while they continue to release bullets after a bullet into your awaiting face. She also teleports. It takes a while to notice at first, but there are moments where she just suddenly gets ahead of you while your back is turned, and moves with seemingly the speed of Barry Allen, where you don't so much as feel like you've got a companion with you on your journey, more that you've got a Bruce Willis with you. While you're in Columbia, the world slowly changes from happy-go-lucky town to crumbling ruins. But the change isn't natural. Instead, the state of Columbia changes each time you pass through a portal, really dissecting the game into 3 Neapolitan chunks. Quite early on, I had to change the difficulty to hard because I found it quite easy, and this wasn't too bad until you got to a few enemies who just turned into straight up bullet sponges. There are a few cases where you have to tangle with a handyman and you're just... would you kindly stop? These guys are the most annoying things in the world, as they can basically punch you to oblivion, so you get far away from them. But then they jump across the entire map to punch at you some more, and it just turns into some terribly messy fight where half of it is spent running around looking for health. It also wouldn't be a Bioshock game without this ridiculous boss battle near the end, in which you find yourself against a ghost and zombies. Which, other than me dying over and over resulting in no ammo, wasn't that bad until you realise you have to fight her again and again and again. While it may not sound it, I actually enjoyed Bioshock Infinite quite a bit. While there are aspects of gameplay that don't make sense and some that are stupid, like pulling a pineapple out of people's pockets. I mean, have you seen how big a pineapple is? The game's plot is an interesting one that deals with the ideas of time travel in multiple dimensions, where the universe is fleshed out more with stray audio logs, that you get this incredible sense of the world, although there are some segments that really don't feel required.
The circle be unbroken.
All 2 of you may be thinking that I hated Bioshock Infinite, which is wrong because the story really holds the game together. It's the driving force in the entire game. It's this incredible story about multiple dimensions and the implications that come with jumping around these dimensions, and the fact that Elizabeth is this seemingly godlike being towards the end. That said, the gameplay is something left to be desired for. I mean, sure, swashbuckling around is quite fun, but there are other parts of gameplay which just kind of sucked, especially when you get to the very final battle in the game. That was the shittest thing in the world. And there weren't even any handymen in that time. Okay, seriously, are you just gonna, like, stay here forever now?
Yep, pretty much.
Hey, if you've made it this far, thanks for dropping by and watching my video. It was about Bioshock, and I know I came across very critical, but I really did like the game. I have to stress that enough so people don't come after me with the pitchforks. Anyway, if you have any comments, such as, "You're completely wrong about this game, it was the best game ever, OMG how dare you," make sure you leave them down below. Or if you want to tell me how to improve on my lifestyle, whether it be in relation to videos, or just, you know, fashion, I don't know, make sure you leave that down below as well. If you actually liked what I made for once, then make sure to subscribe or something, and maybe even check out one of my other videos, where we've got a top 10 favourite Pokemon on the page, as well as an anime review I do on my other channel. Anyway, thank you and goodbye.
Shut up, Neil.
And this is wrong. And there weren't any. As you walk through, you end up stumbling upon. This would be simpler than you. You could potentially argue that perhaps they've not taken. I don't understand.